Hey,
Yep.
thank you everyone for joining the monthly webinar series from Suraksha Catalyst. I'm Gurdeep Kaur. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Suraksha Catalyst and so proud and happy to be part of this vibrant community. So, what we have today is a great lineup, a great session that is very timely. But before we get into the actual session, let's just go to the next slide. And I want to make sure that people who have not really been associated or don't know much about Suraksha Catalyst, I'll just take 30 seconds to bring you all up to speed with what Suraksha Catalyst is about. So it's an Indo-American cyber alliance focused on bringing together the cybersecurity founders, practitioners, leaders, and it's all about having that as much, I would say, enhanced level of collaboration and partnership between India and US. And we also have a very vibrant chapter program. And the vision, of course, is how we can encourage the community to come together, collaborate for innovative cybersecurity ecosystem. Right. Next slide, Millie. All right, so upcoming events, very excited. This is virtual, and we will have an in-person event later today, and that is our New York, New Jersey chapter meet at 6 p.m. So if you are in New Jersey, New York, please join us. Please reach out if you would need to registration information, the link, we can all help you with that. And then we all look forward to seeing you next month at the RSA conference. Please, if you are in San Fran at that time, please join us for an amazing evening on March 25th. All right. With this, I will hand it over to you, Ramya, our esteemed moderator for this panel. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Gurdeep. Thanks for kicking it off so lovely. So, hello, everyone. I want to start with something honest. So, every security practitioner, including me, has thought about the CISO question. What does it actually take? How do we get there? And are we building the right signals? And in today's market, as we all know, is very competitive. Expectations are higher, the budgets are tighter, the boards are more involved. So this isn't just about ambition anymore. It's about clarity. And that's why this conversation matters. And what makes today's panel very powerful is the diversity of perspectives we have here. We have two seasoned CISOs who have actually walked this journey, Arsa and Radhika, who can speak from lived experience about what it takes not just to land the role, but to survive and thrive in it. We have Michael, who sits on the other side of the table, evaluating, hiring, and placing CISOs in this exact market. And he sees patterns most of us don't. We also have Tim, who works closely with executive leadership and boards, and he brings a broader perspective on what modern security leadership demands. So today, we are not just talking theory, we are looking at this journey from every angle, from executive, recruiter, and an enterprise leader. So we'll start with some brief introductions. We will then move to the core panel discussion. And before that, we'll have a small poll. And then we will leave the last 10 to 15 minutes for Q&A. So please drop your questions in the chat and we will grab them post the discussion. And for those I haven't met yet on the call, I'm Ramya. I've been with Cisco for the past decade, working in the threat detection and response space, leading engineering teams in XDR and automation. I'm also a Dallas chapter lead of Suraksha Catalyst, and I'm really excited to moderate this conversation today. With that, I will invite each panelist to introduce themselves. Radhika, how about we start with you first?
Sure, thank you. Hi everyone, I'm Radhika Bajpai. Super excited to be invited as a panelist on this. I feel like Suraksha Catalyst and I kind of go a long way from inception in partnership with Ankur, Gurdeep, and everybody else here. Really quickly, I have been, as Ramya mentioned in the brief introduction, I have been in the industry for about 25 plus years now. Currently, I am CISO at Russell Investments. Prior to Russell, I have been at Goldman Sachs, leading multiple teams and organizations there. Then I was also at Google Cloud CISO organization from its inception days, as well as also at PayPal, leading technology risk governance. So I've been in the industry playing multiple different roles, not just in security, but in engineering, security, governance, risk, and compliance, like kind of the whole gamut. And I'm super excited about this panel and this topic because looking back, yes, this was me being one of the attendees in various different panels like this, right? But what I like about today's panel is also the various perspectives that all of us are collectively going to bring, and hopefully it helps all the attendees. So thank you for having me.
Thanks, Radhika. Looking forward to hear from you. So, Arsa, how about you? You're on mute, Arsa.
Okay, hi everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. My name is Navarasu Dhanashekhar and go by name, short name Arasu. And nice to meet you all, the panelists and also the attendees. Like Ramya and Radhika were saying, like this is more about community, giving and helping each other. From the background point of view, currently I am the CISO for Schneider Electric digital grid line of business. So we help companies and electric utilities to run the control room software and also design the whole model for the grid and also help them in the asset management from the energy point of view. So in my role, it's a global role. Definitely, I'm here to share some of the insights and perspectives from my personal experience. So that will be very helpful for aspiring CISOs, I would say. And from number of years, I'm more than 20 years experience. I started my career with the Big Four audit firm, but I also started my career from financial auditing and then moved into technical and cybersecurity space. So I was originally in California for 18 years, Fremont, California. Then I moved to Dallas, Texas. So I'm here to share my experience and have a good conversation here. Back to you, Tony.
Yeah, thanks, Arsu. Michael, how about you?
Thanks, Ramana. Appreciate being here and honored to be part of this amazing community. So thank you for having me. I'm Michael Piacenti. I manage managing director of a executive search firm called Pitch Partners. We are very focused in the CISO and deputy and CIO space, probably 90% in the CISO and deputy space. We work with clients on a retained basis, so they are our customers. We don't work financially with our candidates. We run about 30 or 40 of these searches a year globally. And most people know us from a survey report that we put out yearly for compensation and trends in the market, which has become a fun resource for many that comes in from the CISO community and goes out for the CISO community. So I'm based in the Bay Area, although that's where my clothes are, but I'm never there. But very much looking forward to this. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thanks, Michael. Tim?
Good morning, good afternoon from wherever you're calling from. My name is Tim Sanavang. I'm based in Dallas, Texas. Thank you, Suraksha, for including me as part of this panelist group. So I'm really excited about the conversation. I work for a company, a global firm called Inspire Enterprise. We're a large multinational company that serves in many markets in India, in Middle East, in the Americas, and ASEAN area. So I personally serve as the president of our Americas business, and that focuses on our client industries, markets, if you will. My experience spans 25 years in cybersecurity. I've been part of 23 years in Big Four. Priorly, I held roles as a CISO in Big Four, as well as healthcare. So my journey in cybersecurity has been vast and served many customers in the industry. So I'm excited about this conversation and sharing a little bit about my personal journey.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited for this wonderful panel we have here. And I'm sure in the next 45 minutes, we're going to have loads of insights and we're going to learn a lot including me. I'm going to learn a lot from each one of you. Thank you so much. Before we dive deeper, we want to understand who is in the room. So we'll just bring up a quick poll. Millie, if you could do that, please. Thank you. So this poll will help our panelists tailor their responses. So if you could just take a minute to answer them, that would be really good. And we'll just leave the poll there for a few seconds as we get started with the core discussion. Arsu, I would love to start with you. So from the introduction you gave, what I heard was you have a very unique transition from a chartered accountant to CISO. And that's not a typical linear path. So can you share what that pivot really looked like and what gave you the credibility during that transition?
Sure. It's a great question, Ramya. So again, I will start with one important word, which are be curious, right? So being curious is one of the skill, I think, maybe helped me when looking back all my years. So let me start with some. So the poll results are there. Let's maybe read it quickly so that we have some.
Yeah, so what we see here is, the 16 plus years. So that's where the maximum your participants are in the senior leadership executive. That's good to know. And we have also a few of them in the senior practitioner level, like 11 to 15 years. So most of the people in the room are there and currently serving as a CISO, which is 19%. So that's interesting to know.
Excellent.
We have a right panelist and the audience. Yeah.
Okay. Let me go back where I left off. So that's a good poll. It came on very right timing, right? So looks like mostly we have more audience towards senior career, but at the same time, I would recommend folks in early career just observe whatever we are talking here, and maybe we can reach out, give more specific guidelines in your career. That way we'll have this more productive conversation here. So coming back to my topic, right? So when I started my career, I was more a financial auditor, and then it led to internal audit career. I was in India first during my CA days, and then I moved to Middle East. So the global nature and the technology landscape was dramatically changing with Y2K, like year 2000 problem, and all the internet getting introduced and adopted everywhere. So that gives opportunity for people in auditing domain to learn more about business intelligence, right? How business transformation is happening. We are automatically pulled into those conversations. So then, like how we are talking about AI in everything now, that time is about technology, right? We are just, internet is so popular and everybody wants to learn internet as a technology, right? Or web as a technology. So that helped me to jump into it, so being curious, learn those stuff very quickly. That led automatically, like same thing, what happening here. I was in some other meetings with my mentors and my peers, and who all see this coming, and they encouraged to formalize that idea. So I did my, that time it's very early. CISA was one certification from ISACA, which gives you the systems auditing. So naturally, I moved from financial auditing to systems auditing, learn the technology very fast. So that helped me to then formalize my skill set around IT and systems auditing. As you know, any of the certifications you take, that gives you like 5 years of working experience to get the real certificate. You can pass the exam, any exam you can pass, but you can build the experience skill to make sure you formalize that via certificate by meeting those core requirements. So that led me to Sarbanes-Oxley days when US got major IT internal controls gap. So they are looking for people with techno-functional skills to understand the business and balance sheet and P&L and how that works in the system, right? Because we need some, that's where the auditing and technology auditing become very popular because of the Sarbanes-Oxley. So that led me to migrate to Americas, and with help of you, I was able to establish my career. So again, one thing led to the another. But when you are doing auditing, again, being curious, auditing is mostly verify what you already happened, right? So some of my mentors, like they said, hey, you are very good and you're able to observe the problem. Why are you in the other side? Come and help us in designing and operating the controls. Then you know the pain point for us. Why? You can always ask questions. who is going to give the solution, right? So we need to have somebody on the other side coming and telling them, hey, this is the right way of doing it, and helping them in the prioritization. So that's the kind of a journey. And once you demonstrate that and able to connect your technical understanding to the business leaders and technology leaders, so that becomes a real unique value for the whatever the outcomes you are looking for, right? Either for the business or for the enterprise or for the consumers. So for example, I was at the Stanford Business School as their CISO, right? I was serving the student community, right? End of the day, education and higher education is coming with so much innovation and investment. Then I moved into energy industry, like General Electric Corporation, where outcome is to protect the entire critical infrastructure. Then I was with a startup called AutoGrid, where we are helping the electric utilities to protect, where we got acquired by Schneider. So the journey, the focus, and helping to solve the business kind of was the motivation for me to, it's for me actually, Ramya, this is natural transition. I never felt that I'm kind of pushed into something. It's kind of a mutually beneficial growth, which helped me to build my career. Again, is this the path to come to my CSO role? Not for always. Always there are several tracks. There is no formal curriculum, at least 20 years back. But now we have formal curriculum. Like I know some students may doing masters in cybersecurity. These courses were there, didn't exist even 15, 20 years back. So that's why people like us, we came through inorganic channels, either through functional roles like me, but many people I know came through technical roles, like being a system administrator, network architect, right? People come through that path as well. So I want to make it clear, this is not only the path, right? This is one of the paths you can take, and being curious to learn and align with your business takes you to the successful outcome. I'll pause there and give it back to you.
That's really amazing to hear, Arsu, because there are so many people, in the market today who are trying to pivot their career into something very different. And at this perspective, it will really help them. And also what I'm hearing from your conversation was that the unconventional paths, sorry, that can be strengths sometimes. And somebody also has to recognize your strength, and you have to also know what your strength is. And also it's very equally important to position them well as well. So thanks for that insight. Radhika, I want to tap into your experience here. For someone who wants to be ready before the opportunity appears, what should they be building now?
That's again a very good question, and I would start with this, right? That think of it as a long-term gain, right? Like as a long-term plan. So it's like what's that saying? Like it's not a sprint, it's a long-term race, right? Like something like that, right? Like so I think that should be from the get-go. And I feel like across the years, the CISO role has evolved a lot, right? So similar to the other panelists here, my journey into this whole area, and as I mentioned in my intro, in various different functions across the board that kind of like intertwined with the security area, has been really interesting as well. So like just as a quick thing, like 25 years ago when I was at Goldman, I was a hardcore Java developer in alternative investments, hedge funds, technology team, right? And who would have thought that, okay, after like I would be in security and running a CISO organization in one of the financial organizations in New York. So the reason why I mentioned that is again coming to my initial point, like think of it as a longer term thing where in your career, like a CISO role is something like one of the very few roles where you can land into this role from multiple different paths, right? Either be it from business, be it from engineering, be it from technology, be it from like finance or internal audit, compliance, risk, right? And this varies from organization to organization. So for example, like I've seen organizations which are more in a very heavily regulated industry where the path to CISO is much more from like a GRC kind of a function, right? Versus, let's say, in an engineering or very technology driven industry where the path to CISO role is maybe more aligned from like engineering, systems networking, and those kind of principles. I will say this, that from a CISO role perspective, like anyone who is aspiring to be in a CISO role, either like 1 year down the road or 5 or 10 years down the road, like think through to see how you can gain more and more experience in various different aspects of the firm, right? Because in most of the organizations, at least today, the CISO team is kind of one of the very few teams that has a very horizontal view of the enterprise, because CISOs are really working horizontally with compliance, legal, business, technology, engineering, like, right? Like physical security. Like you name a team and CISO has some project, or their team has some project that is going on with that team. So to be able to then really like, from this context, the reason why I'm sharing this context is to be able to really do the work well. This role has also evolved into not just being on the hook for like keeping the organization secure, right? Like from a protection perspective, but also share the responsibility or the accountability really to enable business, right? And enable business in a secure fashion. And I think that's where all the partnerships and the experiences that one can gain in all these multiple different facets really helps, right? Like, so if I take my own example again, like working on the engineering side and really leading the alternative investments hedge funds technology team back at Goldman for almost 5 years gave me the perspective where development teams are coming from, right? So when security organization is reaching to them and saying, hey, fix this vulnerability, right? They're like, okay, I want to work on this more business critical problem, right? Instead of fixing some vulnerabilities, right? So it gave me that perspective. Having worked on GRC, audit, and all those side of things gave me the perspective, like what Arsu was bringing in, gave me the perspective of how our auditors, controllers, board are looking at the same problem, right? And then the engineering mindset or the security mindset helps you bring in to say, okay, now how can I solve this problem from an engineering mindset to enable business, secure business, and protect business. So I will say think long term, think and see in your career, like oftentimes like it's more of a lateral movement in one of these like parallel orgs, right? Like rather than a sequential path. So always be open to those like lateral movements within the organization, or like however the opportunity appears to you. Be open to that. I would also mention, similar to the point that Arsu made, is around like education, right? Continue building on top of, because since CISO role or the security organization is such a horizontal function, like again, taking like from my example, what I mean by that is, so in 2019, 2018 timeframe, this was like almost after like 10 plus years of like working experience and having an engineering degree from India. I was like, okay, I need to now learn more about the regulations and laws and everything that is happening in the US and the rest of the world, right? Especially coming from like EMEA, GDPR, and all that stuff. And how you can like continue and build on your education, where you can maybe like go for a degree or a certification, right? And how all that kind of gives you a good nugget, a good baseline to then further keep building on it. I will also recommend for aspiring CISOs to engage themselves in like these kind of industry engagements, right? So depending on your experience, like initially maybe you are just an attendee in these kind of industry engagements, right? But slowly as you gain more and more experience, you can be like a speaker, right? Where you share your knowledge. Like these days with AI adoption, I think the best part right now is with AI, everybody is learning, right? Everybody is new in AI. So this is a perfect spot to be able to like gain more skills, because everyone has similar questions, and then at the same time share those skills, right, with the rest of the folks in the industry, because that just not help yourself to further build your education and your career path, but also helps making like also helps building your network, right? Like making your network stronger. Because one last thing that I will leave you with is, like, it's not just about like getting into that role, but like you also need to like always constantly thinking about, okay, once you get that role, then what, right? So I think everything that you are doing kind of like should help you collectively to form all those like various pieces of the puzzle to form the big puzzle. So hopefully that answers your question, Ramya.
Awesome, awesome. So a lot of golden nuggets there, Radhika. And we have we have a person who pivoted from CA to CISO, and we have Radhika who pivoted from programmer to CISO. And very good insights there. Think of a long term rather than short term. So to land in a CISO role from various different paths, and to be open to different mindsets, to be open to lateral movement. Stay curious, very important, and also build your network. Network in today is net worth. So build your network and also expand on your leadership thoughts as well. So very, very good nuggets there. Thanks for that, Radhika. Michael, I would love to bring you here from a recruiter perspective. So we are hiring expectations, like shifting for CISOs, right? What are companies prioritizing today that maybe they didn't 5 years ago?
Yeah, I'd love to get to that. I actually wanted to make a quick comment on the first two answers because I think it's important for the community to realize what's going on here. Just if you step back for a moment, the nature of a CISO's journey is non-traditional. That's the whole point. This entire community was built out of non-traditional journeys. And that's what your superpower is as a community. It's also what brings you all together as a community. It's also what makes the strongest community of any executive group right now in history. Financial services, or excuse me, financial officers, product officers, sales folks, even CIOs, CEOs, they do not have the level of camaraderie and community that CISOs have. It's super important to remember this. It's what brings us all together in these types of communities. And it's because of your non-traditional journeys. So I actually love hearing everyone's journeys. If I were to stack the top 50 CISOs in the entire world, every single one of them would have a different journey coming from a different place. And it's because of those that allow the different perspectives to go fight together to defend the companies, to defend the people. They all do it for the same reason with a common cause, but they all came from different places to get there. And I think it's just, if we step back, we have to think about that. It's what makes this a superpower that you have as CISOs. It's what makes this community so special, and it's why they've all stuck together and cheering for one another. If you just open up LinkedIn, you can see everyone cheering for one another and making sure that their education, their accomplishments, and that is special. And I want people to step away for a second to look at how special that is, because no other function in business has what the CISO has. I say CISO meaning the entire community, not just CISOs themselves, but the deputies and everything else. So I wanted to cover that because I loved hearing this story. So just wanted to make sure I covered that. I mean, what are they looking for today? Everything. So, I mean, you have, it's not as simple as you're looking for a technical versus non-technical CISO. It is a lot more nuanced than that. And like I said, we run 30 or 40 of these a year. We speak to over 150 companies a year who are looking for a CISO, but we only take on a few of these searches because most companies have a challenge telling their story as to what they're looking for. At the time they're looking for it, they tend to get really bottled up into the problems that are sitting in front of them right now, and the threats that are in front of them. What they really need is a CISO that is what we call a chief look around the corner officer. All the risks in the company, all the threats to the company, physical, AI. I mean, you mentioned AI earlier. It's just AI is instant learning. I mean, we've never seen anything like this on our planet before, and it's really changing the game. But I would say that for the most part, in the category of CISOs that I work on, tend to be much more technical. And so I want to be careful when I say that, because there is an entire category that are much more strategic and operational. There's nothing wrong with that at all. That's just the category that I focus on tends to be very fast moving companies that are 30% or more, or 100% growth year over year. They could be a smaller $100 million privately held company all the way to a $10 billion publicly held company, but they're all transforming and moving very quickly, trying to keep up with the threats. And so you need someone with, for again, our searches, just to call that out, someone with a highly technical background, usually a software development background, engineering background, that became the biggest cheerleader or potentially the biggest pain to the security organization. And excuse me, through osmosis and learnings and curiosity, they became worked their way up to becoming the chief information security officer, chief security officer for that company's environment. And so they're now an operator. They're now a strategist. They're not a product developer. They're now a IT auditor. They're now an executive table member. But they're still at the heart a very strong technical. I could that technology piece could have come from IT and networking. It could have come from database. It could have come from audit. It doesn't have to be software engineering. That's just the one that we see the most. But it's a blend, and I think the combination of can you speak with engineers at a level of understanding their architecture, and can you speak to someone in the boardroom and to the chairman. We call it a concept called yo-yoing. So every conversation, if you sit here with a yo-yo and you let gravity take its place, you have to recoil that yo-yo to start over. And that's essentially the way you speak with an organization, up and down the organization, across the organization. And to Radhika's earlier point, the CISO has the most unique view of anyone in the organization about what's going on with people, process, and technology. The only one that comes close is the GC, and they usually sit together at the holiday tables commiserating. No one wants to approach them. But they have the most unique view, and the CISO has the most unique view of what's going on with the problems, the risks. And because of the unique backgrounds that they all have, you all have, they're able to look at that with a different perspective, with a different lens, either as an operator, as a strategist, as a developer, as a marketer, as a salesperson, etc. And again, no one else in the world is really attuned to do that. Right now, I believe we're in this kind of golden era for the CISO. The CISO was built for this moment where AI is intersecting. Everyone needs help as to what to do. Everyone's worried about what's going on. There's a lot of fake news out there about what these things can happen. The CISO is the sense of calmness and structure without slowing things down. There's guardrails, but we're moving forward. And so it's just a really interesting time. I think it's fascinating. I kind of geek out on it every day, so it's easier for me. But that's kind of how I would categorize it. Sorry for the long-winded answer.
Oh, that's really good. Thanks for that, Michael. Yeah, so as you said, highly technical, someone who has taken the non-conventional path from an engineering perspective, who's also strategist, and also the community matters a lot. For like these days, we have so much to learn from each other. So the community, we have to leverage the communities that we have, and it's super amazing to see so many communities and people helping each other in that aspect. Tim, executive presence is often talked about, but it's rarely defined. So could you help us think through this from your vantage point? How early should security leaders start developing visibility, which is actually very key these days? And what does that actually look like in practice?
Yeah. No, it's a fantastic question. And as I think about my journey in 25 years, I think, it starts back like every one of our leaders here. You start somewhere, right? And in many cases, you start engaging in the discipline of cybersecurity from a very pragmatic, technical standpoint. I just, 25 years ago, my first discipline around security was around building identity solutions before they were called IDM. And I think that the core essence of that is you start building a level of depth that allows you to be in the room, allows you to be kind of a trusted advocate to doing something that, frankly, at the time, people didn't truly understand, right? And until you were able to acquire the depth and the credibility around spaces, be it a network security, be it in the compliance space, in my case is identity, I did it for over 10 years. But I think what became very profound to me by year 5 and by year 10 was that there's a lot more to information security, cybersecurity than just that one discipline. It was everything that was the center point of your core responsibility. It was an area of technology and risks and compliance that cuts across everything. One of my big taglines I used to tell folks is that cybersecurity is everyone's responsibility. While I might have been a practitioner, I made it everyone on my team's responsibility, the people who were working for me, my peers, my managers, the businesses. And that was kind of the beginning stages of understanding, the softer side of a company, right? The business side, the non-tech, the non-geek out portions of the work we do. And then what you realize is that in order to truly be a high-level professional in cyber, you have to start to adopt and adapt your own skill set around this area. So around that time, by year 10, in the consulting field, so if you guys recall, I spent 23 years in Big Four, right? So that meant I probably served, at least 20%, 25% of the Fortune 500, which also meant that I saw some of the most complex environments. I worked with the most senior C-suites that were in their roles at the time, which also meant that I got to see, the good, the bad, the ugly in terms of environments. But it also meant that in many organizations, just because you're a massively complex or well-funded organization doesn't mean you have your everything in order. It doesn't mean that you are actually a well-performing team. Frankly, it's in many cases, it's oftentimes I have too much money that I can't figure out what the right things to do are, right? I have too many of the same technology, so they don't actually work well together. So you look for, leaders that in this space that frankly can help companies start to transform, right? You can't start to, take a discipline such as identity management or data security or AI and actually expect it to be a point solution fix. It has to be done with many, many disciplines in mind. It has to be done with people who can, speak the talk and come from a place of experience, but also work with the leaders in that organization. It could be the business units. It could be the legal GC that Michael talked about. It could be the compliance folks that are being doors kicked down by the regulators. But at the end of it all, it takes folks that starts to really, one, understand the discipline of the cybersecurity function that you serve. It could any Two, start to build the level of executive presence to be able to be more effective in your job. So as I was looking at my beginning of my career, I became a CISO in a Big Four by year 15. And that meant that I had the responsibility of really engaging with, a $65 billion global firm that was operating out in 150 countries and the multinational responsibilities and legal separation between how things get done from a tech, from a compliance. Those are challenges that frankly are not obvious to solve for, right? And so what it requires is less tech, less less solution, but more transformation, more evangelizing, concepts and getting everyone on the same page. So I would encourage anyone who's thinking hard about what kind of CISO do I want to be in the future? Start thinking about what you're good at, right? Start thinking about your values. Start thinking about your strength that you can really offer and contribute to whatever the objectives are. And then lastly, you become the center orchestration point for so many things, right? So it's a double-edged sword. So in some cases when things fail, people might say, "Oh, it's a cybersecurity issue," or "We can't go fast because cybersecurity." That's actually, far from the truth. It's usually businesses that are very transformative and digital. The very thing that makes them go fast or need to go fast is the thing that creates a cyber risk that we have to safeguard and protect. Okay, so if you cannot actually change and get folks to follow business objectives and do it in a way that's safe unless you can have the executive presence, number one. Two, honestly, get honest feedback, right? Because you could be a high performance cybersecurity team in your own head, but frankly, the businesses don't actually view you that way. You may think you are telling the board exactly what they needed to hear in terms of, oh yeah, we're doing a fantastic job across the threat, adversary space and this and that, but you're not actually getting to the heart of what the business cares about. So the only way you can do this is to truly have kind of a part of your responsibility as a future leader or as a current leader to be connected with that. be connected in a yo-yo standpoint, like Michael talks about, right? You got to go upwards. You got to manage your peers. How well do you work with your peers, right? If you're not a CISO yet, if you can't engage with a CIO or a CTO or a line leader, you're probably going to have a hard time when you actually have the title, okay? And then when you're in the position of leadership, what is your leadership style? What is your strength, right? Are you actually developing your team and setting them up for success? I always felt my role as a CISO is not to be the person who's, setting the most difficult barriers for doing things, but the person that's connecting the security department to the businesses that we're trying to solve for. So if you're in healthcare, you think about patient safety and patient care. You think about enabling technologies to do our job better and do it more safe. If you're there and not thinking about those things and not enabling your team to understand that vision, that strategy, you're going to run into a problem one day. Okay, so executive presence is one of those things. Start to really think about where your strengths are in that space. Start to develop them, and there are quite a bit of training opportunities out there, but you have to practice it. You have to get feedback from folks and to truly understand: am I skilled in this area? Are there opportunities to improve? And sometimes you need to tell one of your, trusted mentors, say, hey, I'm gonna do something, and I want you to listen, and I want you to give me feedback. Try that out. I think it's the first step for folks that are early in their career in a C-suite position to try to make an impact.
Thank you. Thanks, Tim, for that. Many, many powerful points covered there. So the job of a CISO is way much broader than security. And I really like the tagline that you used. Cybersecurity is everyone's responsibility. And we have to look for leaders who can actually help companies, be it small or big, transform, not just using one discipline, but using multiple disciplines. So thanks for that. Thanks for all those insights. Actually, we are moving towards the close of the hour. We have 15 more minutes left. So I would request my friend Millie to bring up a second poll. We just want to know what the challenges of the CISO are these days. So thanks, Millie, for that. So if you could just, take 1 minute to quickly, answer that poll, that would be good. So also, I would just, quickly ask you this question about like, how do you become a trusted advisor quickly, especially when you're walking into an existing leadership team? So what's your take on that?
Absolutely. I think that's a great question, Ramya. I think most of the answers are already, I think, came from the panelists. Maybe I will summarize it. So in a more of a, it's a trust is more about building the relationship and be consistently available and demonstrate your commitments. Trust is not built in a one action. It's the way you have to demonstrate continuously and be a trusted leader. There is even a formula for the word trust, right? It's about value creation, right? And doing it consistently. So again, this is not a cybersecurity terminology, right? It's more about philosophical and leadership qualities you need to develop. And the core area we can focus on people, process, technology, right? So if you connect these three layers and make sure you demonstrate consistently across three layers, and trust is built over a period of time by clear actions and outcomes. I will put it that way. Again, this is my point of view. Maybe there are so many other definitions, but this is what I felt. I think there was a poll result also. Yeah, I will transition to you, Rami.
Yeah, thanks, Arsu. Yeah, actually, there's based on poll results, I was just reading that. So there was very, one interesting thing that came up is the recruiter perspective. So that's the one that came up. Like 50% of them wanted to know how we actually get placed in the market. So before we move into the Q&A, Michael, just a quick question for you based on the poll results. So what makes boards confident enough to hire or retain a CISO?
Yeah, we do a
What do
lot
you?
of board. We do a lot of board work. And great points earlier. I would say one of the biggest areas that we are looking at right now when the CISO is coming in to make an impactful impression of the board is to have evidence that they've kind of created a common language for evaluating risk in the business at some prior point in time. They don't want to be paying to learn for you to learn that to how to do that. But if you were able to bring together a common nomenclature that everyone in the organization used as a way of de-risking the business, and you led that structure, your team led that structure. There was a security awareness training, and so it might be certain terms that you use. It might be metrics that you have. It might be a particular report that you come out with that the entire company understands. And we see this a lot in very modern organizations as well as traditional enterprises. But the metrics that you report on the program initiatives are key to telling the story. It really is about telling a story. You can't be completely protected, right? We all know that. Sometimes it takes a little education to let a board understand that, but you have to present a realistic approach to risk mitigation through a common nomenclature that everyone believes in. And if you can get that across at a board level discussion or even in an executive, by the way, it starts at the executive suite. It doesn't start at the board level usually. And then the rest of the board will be sort of through osmosis learning what the common language is. So those are the things we see are the most successful.
Yep. Thanks, Michael, for that. I am checking if there's any Q&A on the chat. Gurdeep or Millie, I'm not seeing any, but if there is, please post it in the chat and we will take it in a couple minutes as we move towards the end of the hour. So Tim, over to you. I just had a quick question. So how do leaders stay relevant in this shifting hiring landscape? Like what tools and strategies do you think we can use to stay relevant in a changing security and hiring market that we are seeing right now?
Yeah, I think it's a multidisciplinary approach in my mind, right? It's having an inventory of where your strengths are is going to be super important, right? We talked about the networking effect. No matter what kind of practitioner you are or what kind of leader you are, you have a signature, right? You have a leadership signature, and leadership comes in different forms. People engage in ways that make impact in organizations. So truly be connected with what that is. And if I just look at my own personal development over the years, I look at the things that I have gaps in, right? And I look at it in such a way where can I fill those gaps with the team that I serve today, right? Can I fill those gaps in ways where can I hire and develop those skills? Up to a certain point, you can't hire blindly, or you can't just you gotta be intentional about that. So when I think about everybody talks about AI, you talk about the speed of which things happen, and Mike talked about the CISOs are in the best position to solve for the AI onslaught that we're having. But at the core of it is, um, what's happening is already here, but what we're doing about it is what every single individual needs to be prepared for, right? What is your intentional responsibility and uplifting or next leveling up that you need to adopt? And that might be a tech approach to it. It may be a governance approach to it. It may be a safety approach to it. But whatever that is, play to your strength, play to your and recognize the gaps you have. So I really think that everyone's journey is different. I was looking at the people who are here, 20% of our CISOs, the other 80% were aspiring CISOs early in their career. You have a lot of time, but at the same time, the ability to learn and be equipped with the skills are faster than they've ever been. Right? I remember when I was doing the work 25 years ago, I had books and books and books that I had to learn on my own. And I went to Barnes and Nobles or what have you and bought the books, and I studied on the weekends to do that. You don't have to do that anymore. So you do it in a different way. You consume data in a different way. So I would highly encourage you to figure out where your strengths are, where your gaps are, what is that role and North Star that you're trying to achieve in your personal trajectory, and build towards that. And it's an everyday thing, an every year thing. Last thing I would say, people underestimate what they can do in a year, overestimate what they can do in a year, but they underestimate what they can do in 10 years. So if you want to be a CISO in 10 years, it's in your cards. It's 100% attainable. If you want to be a CISO in 1 year and you're right out of college, not going to happen, right? So put a good plan for yourself.
That was such a wonderful insight, Tim. Totally agree, like 100% agree. Like leveling up on the gaps, identifying what the gaps are, be it a technical or safety or governance. So identifying those strengths and gaps are very important in today's market that keeps changing. And also developing those skills. So there are no skills, I guess, which are non-attainable. So there's always like, if there is something that we can repeatedly do every day to develop that skill, it actually builds over time to reduce those gaps. So thank you so much for that. Radhika, I'll just, one question for you. I'll just route it your way. So hiring cycles these days are super unpredictable. So how should leaders prepare for that uncertainty? We are actually seeing a lot of that in the market. So how do you think that leaders should prepare for that?
Yeah, so from a hiring uncertainty perspective and for the leader preparation perspective, like you should always have like longer term goals and objectives for your team as well as like shorter term, right? And like the way I like to put it is like for any problem, there should be a tactical solution and there should be a strategic solution, right? And that's something that leaders should be aware of, right? Like they should be aware of what their team's needs are currently, as well as what their team's needs are going to be, let's say 1 year, 3 years down the line, because that's how the rest of the technology is maturing, or that's how maybe the rest of the business is maturing, which would require technology and security to mature together. So again, looking at like your own needs, your own team's needs, your own organization's need is one thing. I think another thing that leaders should also be aware of as they are like thinking about their teams and hiring and is the point that Tim made earlier, right? In like I feel for any leader, and especially more so for like from a CISO's perspective also, but it's applicable to like anybody who is like leading a team or leading an org, is you win if your team wins, right? So thinking through from that perspective in terms of, okay, what are the gaps that maybe I need to build as a leader myself, right? And then looking at it and saying, okay, maybe these are some of the areas where I need to hire someone, or these are some of the areas where like having that distinction that, okay, these are some of the areas where I'm probably better off hiring a subject matter expertise to help the team win together and collectively. And maybe these are the areas where I, as a leader, need to continue to get the education, gain the experience to develop that subject matter expertise to help the team collectively to proceed or to march together. So I think for a leader, like thinking through from some of like those perspectives should really help.
Yep. Thank you so much for that, Radhika. So we have 4 minutes left. So as we wrap up, I want to highlight some three, key takeaways that stood out from the panel discussion today. So first of all, like what Radhika mentioned, Arsu mentioned, the CISO journey isn't linear. It's not traditional. And as Michael mentioned, the role today is much more about, technical business leadership, security operations. It's much more than that. And as Tim mentioned, so the positioning matters, visibility matters, identity and identifying the gaps that we have, identifying the strengths, and filling those gaps, they matter a lot. And over everything, a community matters. A community matters in today's world, where we get together, we learn from each other, from from a world that is constantly changing and so overwhelming these days. So this conversation was about readiness, and if we are aspiring to this path, the time to prepare isn't when the job opens, it's now. So thank you to our incredible panelists, and your transparency and candid insights were super invaluable. And thank you, Suraksha Catalyst, for hosting this. And before we actually move on, I would just want to get all the upcoming events that's coming up from Suraksha Catalyst. Emily, if you want to bring that up quickly, before we wrap up. Okay, so today, we have an in-person event, the New York, New Jersey chapter event that Gurdeep mentioned in the start of the hour. We also have the Indo-US Cyber Founders Meet that is coming up on March 23rd, and the biggest of all, the Indo-US Cyber Security Conclave, which is happening along the RSA. So very, very exciting events coming up, and we're hopeful that you would be part of it. Thank you so much to everybody who joined today, and thank you so much for your time. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Good luck
Thank
for
you.
your journey.
Thank you.
Thank you.